Well, we're back at it again. Today I'm winterizing this old Coast Spa. This tub is from like 99 or 2000 or something. She's an oldie. Couple 7 horsepower monster flow pumps in there. So she's from the year 2000. It's a Y2K hot tub, I guess. But I'm going to winterize it. I'll show you guys the process and how we're going to winterize it. First step is to turn off the power, turn off the breaker. Next step is to drain the hot tub. After that, we're going to remove the filter here. So we'll just pull the filter out. Just locate it inside here. So the filter gets removed and stays removed. Before we start winterizing though, we're actually going to put this canister lid back on here. We'll leave it off for now, but when we start winterizing we'll put it back on there. So we're just going through the first step, which is to drain the tub. All you really need to do this is basically a good shop vac. This is like a 10-gallon shop vac. I don't know what the horsepower is on it, but it does pretty good. You need a good shop vac if you're going to winterize. So basically what we're going to do is drain the tub, remove the filter. We're going to open up the diverter valves. So there's one there. There's going to be one in the back corner, one of these corners. I'm not too sure. I've got to flip the lid around. We're going to open them up. We're going to blow them out. There's also going to be a waterfall valve for the neck blasters on one of these seats, most likely. Possibly not, but we'll go through everything on this particular tub and we'll get it winterized. So just waiting for it to drain. This doesn't take too long. I'm going to start getting things disassembled. Let's see where the river's going today. Out into the street there, so we're getting it away from the house. Everybody's going to be happy. Maybe not so much if that's your mailbox, but that's the way she goes sometimes. Way she goes. So I'm going to start getting things disassembled on the tub here, and we'll start winterizing it. Basically, a really handy tool to have is a set of channel locks. These are basically oil filter wrenches. You can get them at Harbor Freight or Princess Auto, any kind of hardware store probably. So just an oil filter wrench. We just call them channel locks anyways. And a lot of these jets we're going to pull out if we can. Keep in mind a lot of these jets are getting old, so you may break some of the jets when pulling them out. And I'll just pull out one here to show you kind of what we're looking at. So this jet actually looks like it's been replaced. So it comes out like that. So this one's in good condition. So a lot of these bigger jets, we call them storm jets. We're going to pull them out. I don't usually pull out these volcano jets on these old tubs or in general, because you can blow them out and you can suck them out pretty good from the jet itself. This big jet up here, we're going to remove this as well. It's going to be tough to do with one hand, but this just threads out counterclockwise, and it's actually threaded in there, where the rest of these jets just clip in there. So we're going to drain the tub, remove the filter, put the lid back on, blow out all of the diverters and waterfall valves, vacuum out all the water that we get from the tub. And another thing too is the skimmer here. You want to make sure that you basically get that vacuumed out as well, and just put your vacuum in there and vacuum it out. And then the last thing that we're going to do after all that's done is we're going to disconnect the pumps and vacuum the unions out as well. So it's quite involved doing a 2-pump spa with a couple diverters. You kind of got to know what you're doing to do it properly. For example, if you were to leave this lid off of there and you started vacuuming the lines, basically you're losing all your suction to the atmosphere there. So you got to make sure you put that lid back on first. And then things like blowing out these diverters, very, very important. So the way that these come apart is basically this guy is just going to slide off the shaft. And I'm going to have to retrieve that. And then the cap just threads off of there. Now, keep something in mind as well. And this one's been jimmied. When you're working on an old tub like this old 2000, these diverters, see how we got lots of thread on there? The diverters themselves, they like to basically suck themselves down or shrink down into the tub. And the end result is you don't really have too many threads left to screw that cap back on there. So when you're working on an old tub like this, that can be a problem. The only way to fix it is to try to jack it up from the bottom or replace the diverter. Both of which means you would have to have access to this side of the tub to pull off the side panel. So tub's almost drained here. I'll get this water pushed down to the bottom and then I'll start doing my vacuuming. Okay, now that we've got the tub drained, our next step is to put this lid back on and we're going to vacuum out the remainder of this water here. So there's still quite a bit of water in here. Normally you can just kind of swipe this water into the lower footwell while you're draining it, but I don't really got good access here, so I'm just going to vacuum the rest out. So I'm going to vacuum this out and then we're going to blow out the diverters. Okay, so basically we've got the tub pretty well emptied out, just got her vacuumed out. Now I need to disassemble the diverters and blow them out. This tub actually has 3 diverters. We've got one here, one over there, and then there's actually one kind of in the middle of the frame at the top. That's another diverter there. So I've got 3 diverters to blow out, and basically that gray valve right in the middle of the frame, that's a waterfall valve, comes apart just like the diverter does, where the handle slides off, the cap threads off, and then you got to remove the insert. All of these assemblies basically have 3 O-rings, so you got to make sure that the O-rings go back in properly when you're done with them. There's always a top O-ring for the face of the cap, and then all of the assemblies always have 2 O-rings on the shaft, basically where the cap will meet the shaft there of any type of insert. So there's 2 O-rings there, 1 O-ring there. So that's true for all of these assemblies, including this waterfall valve, that gray handle in the middle of the frame there. It's going to have the same thing as well. So basically what we need to do is take our vacuum here. Just bear with me. So on this vacuum, basically this is the suction here and this is the blower. So we're hooked up to the blower. Let's see what happens. So as you can clearly see, we get a ton of water just from blowing out these diverters. So I'm going to have to basically, what I'm going to do next is just vacuum out all this water we got. I'm going to repeat that procedure one more time and blow that guy out, make sure I've got it all empty. Then I'm basically going to go to this diverter, do the same thing. Mind you, I'm going to reassemble this first so I don't lose all of the pressure out of the other side. So I'm going to reassemble this, go here, disassemble it, blow it out a couple times. Do the same over there. There's 3 diverters on this hot tub, and there's another one on the top there. So, and basically that waterfall valve as well. Got to disassemble that and get it blown out. So that's going to be my next step, and then we'll come back and get the pumps disconnected and vacuum those out next. And then the last step will be to go into the tub, remove every jet, all the ones that we can, and vacuum those out, and then we're basically done. Our very 2 last things that we do is vacuum out the filter canister and the drain valve. Okay, so I'll be back in a sec. Couple little tips here. First of all, before you disassemble anything, make sure that you note that it's broken or cracked. These parts are old. They're like 17 years old, 18 years old. So, I mean, this is going to need some diverter parts upon startup. So that's the second diverter there. And then I've got another one here. Another tip is basically when you're done with the diverter and you've blown it out, leave that diverter in the middle position. So this thing will swing. It'll swing basically 180 degrees, so leave it right in the middle when you're done, and that will allow you to just make sure that you're blowing everything out properly or sucking it out at the pump when you're done. So I'm going to get this guy disassembled, blown out, that guy disassembled, blown out, and same with this guy. Okay, what we'll do next is get these pumps disconnected and get all the vacuum sucked out of the lines. So these can be tough to get off sometimes, and once in a while the threaded reducer, that's this white piece right here, sometimes that comes off with the union if they're stubborn. This one's really stubborn. So we got this guy off here. So we're going to vacuum. We're going to take our vacuum and we're going to suck out this side of the pipe. And then we're also going to take our vacuum and suck out this side of the pipe. So that'll get us on our suction and discharge for pump 1. And then I'm going to disconnect this guy. The one in the back can be pretty interesting. This tub's not too bad. The one I just worked on was horrible. Sorry, you can't see shit, can you? Have to just bear with me. Alright, got the unions undone. This pump isn't even mounted at all, so I'm assuming she'll just slide out of the way nicely. And now what we'll do as well, so we'll take our vacuum and vacuum out this side, that's the discharge, and we'll also vacuum out the suction side there. And then we're done with the pumps. Once we've vacuumed out the pumps, we leave them disconnected. We do not reconnect the pumps. Okay, so if any water is left in the system, it has somewhere to go. Do not reconnect these unions if you are winterizing your tub. And then after we get that vacuumed out, we're going to get the drain vacuumed out as well. And then we're going to go around to every single jet and pull it out and vacuum it out. So see you in a few minutes. Okay guys, all done the winterization here. I didn't talk about this crystal clear tube, but I showed you in the video. It is important to vacuum out this crystal clear tube here and leave it disconnected once again. So basically this is how I'm going to leave the tub. I leave this heater unit, or heater elbow I call it, disconnected and off. The drain valve stays open and uncapped. That's the little gray guy there. And I usually just leave the cap on top of the spa pack. And for pump 2, I'm just leaving it disconnected like that. I hung up the O-rings there so they're easy to find upon reconnecting it. And that's so if any water is left in the system or gets in the system, it has somewhere to go and not just freeze and expand when it melts and then cracking pipes. Also, the filter stays out. And I just put the lid back here loosely. Otherwise, I reassemble everything else, all the diverter valves, the waterfall valves, stuff like that. And this skimmer here will have to pop this grate back on. So that's basically it. Now, keep something in mind. The procedure here does not apply to all hot tubs. Every hot tub may have its own individual procedure you may have to follow in order to properly winterize it. The procedure that we went through today specifically applies to this tub here, which is like a 2000 Y2K Coast Spa Lanai with 2 7 horsepower pumps, 3 diverters, the waterfall valve for the neck blasters, and those old jets that thread in and out. You got to know what you're doing. If you do not feel comfortable or confident with this stuff, disassembling things, putting it back together, a lot of these fittings are under pressure, so you got to know what you're doing. If you're not comfortable with doing any of this stuff, consult a professional. Basically, don't try anything if you're not comfortable doing any of this work yourself. You know, something bad could happen. So, and also there's really, as these tubs get older, the likelihood of them leaking increases. Now, the likelihood of them leaking because you winterize it actually increases as well, because what happens over time is all the glue joints, silicone joints, they start to basically degrade and deteriorate over time. So all of those joints are basically going to fail at some point. Like every single jet has a silicone seal on it. Every single jet basically has glue joints as well. So I mean, we're looking at 18 years, usually about the 20 to 30 year marker with some of this older style pipe here. And all the newer barbed pipe is going to last a lot longer. So yeah, keep that in mind. You know, the tub is getting old and the pipes will even contract and they'll shrink a little bit, like we talked about with the diverters and just things of that nature. So winterizing tubs is hard on tubs. These tubs, they want to be warm, they want to be wet, and these pumps want to work. So as soon as we shut it down, it's basically opposite of all of that. And yeah, you can expect, I guess, premature wear on some of the components. So thanks for checking this out, and always be accountable when you are winterizing and be responsible for what you're doing. Don't rely on other people. Don't blame other people. Get the job done properly, or consult a professional to get it done properly yourself. Have a good one. Alright, we got another tub to winterize right now. This is another Coast Spa. It's like an 02 or 04 Coast Spa Tahiti, little 7-foot spa. Some crazy Russians beside us. As you can see, our access isn't so great. We only have one pump in this tub, that's all. So we got to get this sucker drained. Got to pull the filter out, which is over here. Get the lid back on. Blow out this diverter valve. I also have to blow out, there's a waterfall valve there. And waterfall valve right there, and the other one's right there. So I'll get this thing drained out, vacuumed out, and I want to get going home. It's about 6:30 at night here on a lovely Wednesday evening. Just getting this tub drained and winterized. Alright, so we got the tub vacuumed out initially, drained, vacuumed. Now we're ready to blow this diverter out. Also remember, we pulled the filter out and we got the filter lid back on over there. So not too much water, so we'll get this vacuumed out and we'll disconnect. Actually, we'll get the we'll do one of these guys next. Why don't we zoom? There's an O-ring in there. So before we blow that guy out, then we want to reassemble this quickly. I've had issues with this diverter in the past. In the middle position there. So this is going to blow out this waterfall right here. There's also another waterfall right over there at the top of the tub. That black skinny piece, that's another waterfall. So that's blown out. Next one, I'm going to disassemble this guy and blow that out next. And then we'll get to the pump. Okay, got the tub drained out, diverter's blown out, waterfalls are blown out. Next thing to do is disconnect this heater elbow right here, that pipe there. So I don't really have a lot of room to work, so I'm going to disconnect that, vacuum out the yellow end there, that's the suction side, and then vacuum out the black collar on that side too. So that's how we get the suction and discharge. Unfortunately for this hot tub, the drain valve is located in the corner, buried under the snow here, and it's just virtually impossible to get to. So normally I don't open it on this particular tub. I take my time and I vacuum out the little drain on the bottom. That little guy right there. So just sit there with the vacuum for a few minutes and put it on that fitting, and you'll be good to go. That's all she wrote. Tub is winterized. It's disconnected. Oh no. Stack and go. Ready for another winter to sit there empty. Let's see like these winterization specials. Sorry you can't see shit. I gotta work at night and I don't like it much either. My boss is a slave driver. Peace!